I'm Caden Martz, and for the first time, welcome to the Den. Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of the Den. As you heard, my name is Caden Martz. I'm a freshman at the University of Central Florida, and I've been talking about sports for a long time. If you ever see me with my friends or anybody else who may be watching a game or something like that, instantly I'll join that conversation because I love to talk about it. Sports discourse over the last few years has been getting changed a lot. You look at Kenny Beecham with Enjoy Basketball, and there's a lot of channels now that like to do breakdowns and film. And I do appreciate the sense it's going, the direction it's going. And if I could be a part of that and join that movement, I would love that so much. I've been playing sports my entire life as well. I was always a smaller guy. I went into high school about 4'11", so no football for me, but I did wrestle all 4 years. And there's a lot of the guys in the league, you'd be surprised that wrestle as well. Now at UCF, I'm playing rugby. Super fun, very similar to football. I've actually learned a lot about the game by playing some rugby. But I'm super excited to get into this podcast and start it. If there's anything that you, the fans, you, the audience, wants me to talk about, please do not be shy. Email the email in the bio, our TikTok, our Instagram, DM any way you want to get it to us. As a Carolina Panthers fan, I know I've got the Niners jersey on right now, but as a Panthers fan, I'd always click on a podcast, just hope and be like, okay, please talk about Bryce Young or something right now. But because we sucked, they never would. So I want to give you guys a chance. Any mailbags, I'll try to cover every single piece of info that you guys sent to me. And it's not just going to be football. Today, we're just going to be covering week 7 of the NFL, every single game. But I have a huge love for MMA and UFC. That's probably my biggest passion as a sports fan, talking about that. So if there's any interest for that, of course, NBA season's getting started, MLB, NHL, any soccer, European, American, although I don't really want to talk about the US men's team right now, but anything you guys want to see, I would love to talk about. Let's start this slate off by looking at the Bengals and the Steelers. An absolute banger of a game that a lot of people thought would be boring and lame because you got two 40-year-old plus quarterbacks dueling at it on a Thursday night, which Prime's production has gone down a lot recently, and I'm not going to talk about that right now. But I just don't think Thursday night's got it figured out. But apparently the Bengals did. Joe Flacco just really surprised me. This was my first time really getting to watch him in action in a minute. Other than with the Browns, and with the Browns, he did not look good. I'm just going to make that clear right now. I don't believe that he looked good at all. So I had low expectations for him, especially in this game against the Steelers, who were 4-1 going into it. But he was just so accurate, and his arm was a lot stronger than I remember. Maybe not like distance wise down the field, but he could really put some zip on those balls, especially for such an old guy. And I honestly had like the same thing to say for A Rod. A Rod's talent level has not gone down in a long time. You saw with the Jets, he wasn't playing as good as he is right now, for sure. He had those two MVPs. Those are a lot more recent than a lot of people think. But Aaron Rodgers' ability to move around the pocket with his knees, probably hurting every play, it really impresses me. So you saw these two quarterbacks fight it out, and I think a big difference maker in this game for why the Bengals actually won was their weapons. Chase Brown, I was not a Chase Brown truther. Any fantasy draft I saw anyone draft him, I was like, what are you doing right now? But not tonight. Thursday, he proved to me he was for real. He's the real deal. He knows what he's doing. 11 carries, 108 yards, 9.8 per carry against the Steelers defense. We'll talk about them in a second. That's impressive. That's real. And then, of course, you know the receivers, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Don't let T. Higgins' performance get overshadowed. 96 yards and a touchdown. That's still always impressive. But Jamar Chase, man, Jamar Chase, you saw him make a big play at least every drive. 16 grabs, 161 yards, and a touchdown for himself. He's nasty, bro. He's so good. And like you watch this game, the score really close in the end, 31-33. But it did kind of feel like the Bengals had a weird sense of control. It wasn't like, all right, we're going to win the game. It never felt like that for either team. But the Bengals always had like a little bit of the edge on this team. I think a lot of that has to do with Pittsburgh defense. I definitely expected them to be better. Definitely against Joe Flacco. But you kind of saw them struggle and just get picked apart slowly, slowly, slowly. And then the Bengals never slowed down. I don't think the Steelers' defense was ever too much better at one point in the game or the other. They kind of just got picked apart constantly the entire time. Um, for the Steelers' offense, I mean, I can't complain too much. 31 points, you can't be mad at. And Pat Fryermuth, he had a big game. I know he made some big plays, especially near the end. He had a huge touchdown. Um, I'm not saying I wanted more, but it is the Bengals. It is the Bengals defense. So for you to lose a game, no matter what, against the Bengals, it's hard to not put any of that blame on the offense. I'm not blaming it on Rodgers. I'm not blaming it on the weapons, although DK didn't have a great game. I'm also not blaming it on Jalen Warren. I thought Jalen Warren was pretty good in this one, for sure. 127 yards and almost 8 per carry. That's nasty for sure, right? But it's hard to not blame any of that game on their offense. I do definitely believe their defense was the main reason they did lose this one. The next game I kind of want to look at here was Indianapolis versus LA Chargers. Another team that I hadn't looked at too much this year was the Colts. And my main thought on this team before this game was Jonathan Taylor is amazing. And I'm not saying he's not amazing. I'm actually going to back that statement up because Jonathan Taylor is really a baller. You saw him; he had 94 yards today on 16 carries and 3 touchdowns. I mean, he's an absolute machine. You see how elusive he is, but he's also got some power. I mean, it's nice to have a back like that. And he's been kind of a little more consistent over the past few years than people like to remember. But when I actually sat down and watched this game, it wasn't just the Jonathan Taylor show. In fact, might have been the Daniel Jones show. And everyone's talking about it. Everyone says, oh, look at Daniel Jones. He's a front runner for MVP. He's like an MVP candidate. And I thought they were just joking. Like I thought people were just talking, just saying that. He is actually an electric quarterback. 5th in the entire league in yards and 2nd in the league in QBR. That is so hard to do. 2nd in the league in QBR. Of course, it's not just him. And I think a big reason why Indianapolis has had so much success along with Jones and the whole season, but especially this game, the biggest story for me has been that O-line. You see Jonathan Taylor's success. You see Jones' success. And then you kind of look at the Chargers, and you see Herbert starting to fall off a little bit over the last few weeks. And the injuries to their O-line, Herbert is tied for the most pressured quarterback in the NFL right now. The most in the NFL. He's still producing pretty well because he's Justin Herbert, you know. Amari and Hampton goes out, and both of their tackles go out. That run game is going to be destroyed. The Chargers are not going to have the run game they want. Indianapolis, on the other hand, they're going to be able to run the football great. Daniel Jones can have plenty of time in the pocket. Even when he needs to move out of the pocket, he's pretty well, but he doesn't have to do it too much. Indianapolis has a few weapons that like I didn't look at as like actually threatening. I think their big four though, they all contribute in their own ways, and they're all super well utilized in that offense. Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, and then I'm forgetting his name right now. Oh yeah, Tyler Warren, of course. How can I forget Jonathan Taylor as well? They space those guys out really well, and they play their roles in that offense perfectly. So Jones has at least somebody. Every play, Jones will have somebody and a chance to hit one of his targets on offense. They played really well. Chargers defense isn't like a bad defense in my opinion. I think they can hold their own in games. I think they haven't too well recently, but I think they can. And the Colts were just able to beat them this week. Um, Oronde Gadsden the second. Who is that? Who is that guy? I didn't know who that was before I watched this game. But this guy's kind of good. He's got a real big frame. He's a real dirty player. He'll really get in there, you know, catch the ball, throw a stiff arm. He had a really big play where he fought through like a bunch of defenders. I'm not sure if it was taken back for a flag though. He's been pretty for real. I think he was just a 5th round pick this year, but he's already had 300 yards this season. I mean, that's great production, I'd say, for a 5th round receiver. They're kind of having to dig kind of deep in that depth chart, but the Chargers shouldn't be too panicked. This is a loss against a good team who's been playing good. Chargers are in my opinion, pretty good team who's been playing kind of on a downward slant, but nothing egregious. And these are two teams that should definitely, maybe not definitely for the Chargers, but two teams that should be in the playoffs. And I think if they meet again, I don't see it going differently, but I do see it being a little closer than 38-24. Another game I was really interested in looking at after the score was Packers Cardinals. Packers won 27-23, but I'm definitely worried about Green Bay this season. Not a question in my mind that Green Bay is going to struggle later in the season, and especially in the playoffs. You saw it when Rodgers was there. They get to the playoffs and they wouldn't be able to win. These are the kind of performances that I look at and say, I don't trust this team in the playoffs. The Cardinals starting quarterback and starting running back, Jacoby Brissett and Bam Knight. Amazing name, by the way. Those are your two starting players, and you're making it a 4-point game with the Packers. The Cardinals have got to be one of the best 2-5 teams I've ever seen in my life, right? And their weapons stepped up pretty good today. Trey McBride is so athletic, and he's big too, but he's so athletic. He can just bounce off a tackle and keep running upfield. Zay Jones, who kind of when he was with the Raiders, he'd have a few games every year where he was like, all right, this guy's kind of like catching the ball pretty well. And then Marvin Harrison made a few really impressive grabs. But there's two ways, you can kind of look at this game and be like, all right, Green Bay needs to lock in, or Arizona is just that good. I think it's a little more that Green Bay just needs to lock in. I know I just said Arizona's a good team. And don't be surprised when they're in playoff contention. But the freaking Titans beat this team. The Titans beat this team. Yes, I know it was a ridiculous game, but the Titans beat this team. And if you can only beat them by 4, and it's really close, and it's coming down to the last play where Jacoby Brissett has to put up a Hail Mary that's caught behind the end zone, who are the Packers going to go against? And you're going to say, all right, I know they're going to beat them. I don't have anybody. And they've had a few really close ones. There was this one, and then the Dallas game. Of course, everybody can remember when they almost lost the game because Jordan Love wanted to throw the ball for some reason. But LaFleur has been a little funky, and Love he's a good quarterback. He's borderline top 10, I'd say for sure. I can't put too much blame on Josh Jacobs, although he could have played better. He was just all right in this one. But a win is a win in the end. I think this is also proof, any given Sunday, a team can show up, a team cannot show up. But I do think there is real issues that the Packers are facing right now that they need to address, especially when it gets to playoff time. Another game that I like to look at this week was the Bears Saints. And there's a lot of talk leading up to this week about Spencer Rattler and how he was playing like a possible franchise quarterback. I don't think that anybody should look at this game and say, all right, Rattler, your time's over. Your time's done. Yes, 3 interceptions is bad. But 20 for 32 and 2 touchdowns is not that bad. And the weeks before, again, were not that bad. I say you at least give him a few more weeks because your other option is Tyler Shuck, and there's almost nothing there, right? I say you give him a little bit more time. And the Bears are not a bad football team. I think it's going to keep rolling and getting better, but Ben Johnson's schemes are coming to fruition. I have no idea that Kyle Monungai, I think I'm saying that right, he's going to put up 13 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Swift is definitely not going to go on 90% of the other offenses in this league and go for 124 yards and a touchdown. That's not going to happen. Let alone those two players doing doing both those performances in the same game. That's just Ben Johnson being a freaking baller. Same thing he was doing in Detroit. Obviously, you see Detroit's run game is still working now, but he's just implementing it here. And the players are starting to learn it. They're starting to understand it. Caleb Williams is fine. Caleb Williams is still not up to that number 1 potential you'd want him to be. Number 1 pick potential you'd want from any quarterback you take that high. But he's, of course, still got time and he's still got talent. If you asked me to bet on if he would reach it, I probably would say no. but I don't think he's anywhere near being out of the league or not worth the starting job. I don't think that's true. I think you want more, you can ask for more, but getting this is not the end of the world. Saints are 1-6, but I don't think they're the worst team in football. I don't think that's the case. If you asked me who the worst team in football was before this week or maybe a few weeks ago, I would have said the Saints. That was probably a pretty popular pick. But this week, I can pretty darn confidently say the worst team in the league is Miami. Look at their game against Cleveland this week. The Browns, I know they're at home. I know Miami is often terrible when they have to go up north in the cold. Miami lost 6-31 to this team. Both teams were 1-5 before this game. How do you let Dylan Gabriel beat your team that bad? Um, I think a standout, maybe two standouts from this game were the running backs. Quinshawn Judkins was a baller. He did get 25 carries and only 84 yards, but when you only look at the stats, it doesn't tell the true story. And I also think his O-line struggles a little bit, especially this year. But Quinshawn Judkins is a real athlete. He's a shorter back, but he can really bounce off tackles. I see a little bit of Christian McCaffrey in him, like a little bit of that. But he's also pretty bulky too. And his ability to kind of tear through this Miami defense, it was pretty clear this game that he was going to do that. 3 touchdowns again. He's just a baller. The other standout from this game and from every Miami game has been Devon Achane. He is a good running back without a doubt. He's a very talented back. And his O-line might be a little better than Judkins' O-line. But if he moves somewhere else, like to a good team, there has to be teams that want a good running back. And it's probably not going to cost the team too much for Devon Achane. So I really hope for his sake, and even for Miami's tank's sake, Devon Achane gets moved on from because he's too talented, too quick. He's just too good of an athlete to be stuck in Miami with Tua Tagovailoa. Tua, I think he's got to go. He had just a terrible interception this game in the end zone. He's got no zip on his balls. He lofts everything for no reason. He panics so fast in the pocket. And he just never, I've never seen one Tua play over the last few weeks where he got someone right in the chest. Or got someone right where they wanted the ball, right in stride. Everyone always has to make an adjustment mid-route or something like that just so they can catch a ball. So in my opinion, I believe it's time now to move on from Tua. Not with Quinn Ewers. I don't think that's the move. But somebody else. It can't be Tua. I don't think. Maybe you go make a trade for somebody if you want to be good. I don't think they should. There's a few good quarterbacks this class. There's nothing like crazy ridiculous, but quarterbacks are still going to go high, and I think it's worth taking a shot on somebody because Tua is just not working anymore. Dylan Gabriel made a few good throws, but I don't think he's a real option for the future. I think Cleveland's also going to have to attack one of those quarterbacks in the draft this year. Shador is interesting to talk about always, but we don't know yet. I don't think he'll surprise anybody. I think if the organization says he's not it, I think that's enough for me to trust that he's not going to play much better than Gabriel, who still led this team to a 31-6 win this week. Let's look at the Sunday night game. Atlanta Falcons versus the Niners. Of course, I'm repping the Niners right now, but that's only for one man, Christian McCaffrey. What a baller, man. 24 carries, it's a lot of carries, 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also 7 receptions for 72 yards. When he was in Carolina, the year that Michael Thomas won Offensive Player of the Year, I was so mad that CMC didn't win that award. Because he had so many receiving yards that people were ignoring. People weren't looking at. They were like, oh, his rushing yards weren't anything ridiculous. He is such a weapon. And his ability to get like stuck, the hole's not there, A gap, B gap, nothing's there. He'll just make something. Also, when he even off the catch or even just running, he goes into contact hard and he runs through guys. As a rugby player, if CMC was on that field. Nobody's tackling him. Nobody's tackling CMC easily. That's for sure. Um, I think it was also a down day for Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, also one of the best running backs in football, but only 14 carries and 40 yards. But I don't think that's because he had a terrible day, or even because like the Niners O line is bad. I think that's just Kyle Shanahan being that good. Even the fact that the 49ers right now are 5-2 in the National Football League after injury and injury and injury on this team. Nick Bosa, Kittle, Purdy, Pearsall, all of those injuries, they're still 5-2. That's because Kyle Shanahan is such a good coach, such an underrated coach in the league. In my opinion, and he was the reason Bijan got shut down today. I think it's always interesting when you look at like two really good running backs that go against each other because you kind of think like, all right, well, like how good are the other running backs in the league? And for me, I have a pretty definitive top five. There's one guy in there that's missing. I think Jonathan Taylor's in there, Bijan's in there, and this is not an order. Jonathan Taylor, Bijan, Saquon, CMC, and Jameer Gibbs. And Derrick Henry's not in there just because of production right now. But I do believe that CMC belongs in there. And the only argument that people have against it is injuries, and I hate that so much. It makes sense. He can't really stay on the field too much. But we're looking at like talent right now. I'm looking at how good is this player, and CMC is definitely a top 5 running back in the league for me. Mac Jones did fine today. That Atlanta defense isn't terrible, right? So Mac Jones is going to be able, if Mac Jones is able to put up a solid performance, which he did an all right performance. He did have a pick in there that wasn't great, but if you can do that against an Atlanta defense, I think you're okay. Do I think that it's Super Bowl contending okay? No. I think that Purdy is going to have to come back and be better than him by a solid margin if this team wants a chance at a Super Bowl. And it's always hard with the Niners because their injuries and everything to talk about a potential Super Bowl for them. I don't know if that's in the cards this year. I'll really have to see how Purdy looks when he comes back. Penix is interesting for me. Michael Penix, when I watched him earlier this season, especially against my Panthers, I did not see a starting quarterback. I didn't see that personally. I thought he was pretty good on Sunday night. I thought he played pretty composed, and even when he had to move around, I thought he did a solid job of that, especially against the 49ers defense. 241 and a touchdown is solid. I don't think his receiving weapons are that crazy. I see why people like Drake London a lot. Kyle Pitts I love because I used to be, a Gators fan before I went to UCF. But he also has to do a lot of work himself. And he's doing a solid job at that right now. He's nothing ridiculous, but he's definitely got a chance and he has some room to grow, I could see, but I think there's also a level of improvement that I can't see in him right now that he'll need to make if he wants to be a for real starting quarterback in the league. My friend's prediction this year was that Michael Penix was going to win MVP. I don't think that's coming true. Um, Last thing on this game, every year, there's one player between these two teams that makes a ridiculous catch, and I've been turning on Niners games just because I want to witness a Kendrick Bourne absolute heater live. Kendrick Bourne, where is your electric catch this year, man? Where is it? I'm waiting for it. Everybody else is waiting for it. Let's go ahead and move on to a game that had a lot of buzz this week. It's because of the creatine Caucasians, as they're called. Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo go into Denver and almost edge out of victory. This game was super fun to watch for sure. Kind of near the start, Dart was looking like a real baller, like he has been. And Scat, he was doing good, receiving wise. And then that times the fact that Bo Nix looked a little sloppy. It looked like the Giants were going to be proving that New Orleans game wrong and proving that Philly game true. That's what it looked like in the first half. But then you kind of got into that second half where it's more, when people say like, "Oh, did we win this game or did the other team lose it?" or that kind of thing. Kind of looked like the Giants started losing the game. I don't think Denver played that much better in the second half. I think they did have a few more great catches, but shout out Marvin Mims and Cortland Sutton These guys are baller, man. They can go up and make a grab whenever you need it. I think that the Giants started to fall off a little bit. Bo Nix caught a little bit more of a rhythm, right? Got some more zip on his balls kind of near the end. And then New York just started to fall off. Jackson Dart had a terrible interception. It's like just like in Madden. You get your crosser out, right, when you need a play on like third down. And he's just staring at it over the middle. He just throws it right into the defender's hands. Um, and so Denver started moving. And then it looked like the Giants, okay, they locked in. They're going to go get this win. Sean Payton almost lost Denver the game for some reason. Sean Payton got out there, freaking started yelling at the ref. But somehow, Denver came out in the end and won. And I don't see this as a result that's too good or bad for either team. Um, I don't think either team wants to be in this situation where the Broncos, who are 5-2, right? It's a great record right now to have, especially because there's no real clear contenders. You almost just lost to the Giants, man. You almost just lost to the Giants at home. And the Giants, who beat the Eagles but lost to the Saints, are trying to be like, all right, let's put that loss behind us. Let's get back on this hot streak. You have this great chance, and you're in the position to win this game against Denver, and you don't capitalize on it. So for both these teams, I think this is kind of disappointing. But for Denver, record-wise, it's the best. For the Giants, for the Giants, record-wise, it sucks. 2-5 is super hard to make the playoffs with. So for the Giants' outlook for the rest of the season, I think they could maybe look like, all right, let's just keep winning as many as we can, get some confidence rolling into next season. We have a lot of talent, so there's not too much we need in the draft. For Denver, take your win on the record book. Really hit it hard at practice this next week and move on and try to get as many wins as possible going into the playoffs. One game this week that a lot of people, myself included a little bit, we thought like, okay, this is a fun one to watch. It's two contenders. They're going to go back and forth. It's going to be really exciting. It was not. The Rams absolutely dominated the Jaguars. I believe this one was in London, basically where the Jaguars' home stadium is anyways. But the Rams went in there and just kind of showed all the flaws of the Jaguars off and put it on blast for the whole league to see. Trevor Lawrence has definitely not been that good this season. It's not that's not a hot take, I don't think. I think record-wise, you can just look at their record and ignore that. But T-Law has been a clear reason why the Jaguars haven't been even better. In that San Francisco game they had against them, he was a big reason why they lost. In the game with the Chiefs, he missed some throws. He was pretty solid that game. In this game, he just wasn't that good. Of course, garbage time made his stats look great. 296 yards and a touchdown, no picks. He was not hitting throws, man. He was just missing guys, and you can't have that if you want to be a playoff contending team like this Jaguars team wants to do. You're still 4-3. That's still a winning record. It's still a possibility, making the playoffs. But I think T-Law definitely needs to play better. Matthew Stafford, on the other hand, this guy's a baller. 5 touchdowns he put up against a solid Jaguars defense. This Jag defense early in the season, we were talking about, Saxonville coming back, like Oluokun, he's great. I know they just traded Tyson Campbell. He actually had a pick six in that Browns game. But Stafford played really good against his defense. Some upside for the Jags. I mean, they stopped the run game pretty well of Los Angeles. Kyron Williams, who's on my fantasy team, put up 54 yards. Let me check if he had any more receiving yards. Yeah, he did freaking nothing, but it's okay. Running wise, none of these teams were crazy. Travis Etienne is definitely super talented. Not super talented. Let me go back a little bit. Travis Etienne is a good running back in the NFL, and he's been producing a good amount this year, especially with Liam Cohen, who's I believe he's doing a pretty good job as their head coach. And I do actually, going back to that same point, I think T-Law is another reason why this team isn't doing as good as they could be. Travis Hunter had a good game for sure. He finally got those target numbers. Everyone's talking about, he didn't get targets. He's not getting things. I saw a meme. It was like Travis Hunter if he got Chris Olave's targets, and it was like Randy Moss. Oh, whatever. He did great today. 8 catches, 101 yards. Not today. 8 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. Travis Hunter, we know he's there, and it was really shocking for like everybody, like saying like, he's going to get more offensive snaps or whatever than defensive snaps. And he's still a young guy. Like, you had so many expectations for him to be this force on defense and offense. Imagine how hard it is to probably try to do that at the next level in the NFL and have to learn both those at a whole new level. I just think there's plenty of time for him to get better at both, and there's no reason you should write him off as a corner, write him off as either. Either of those, we know how good he is, a former Heisman winner. But the Rams are really, they've got something special brewing. Um, they have all the talent. They got this big win without Puka Nacua, who maybe before this game was the offensive player of the year front runner. I think it's him and Jonathan Taylor kind of going back and forth right now. But something is a little off with the Rams for me right now. I can't exactly tell you what it is. I can't tell you why I feel like this. But something's just screaming like divisional round exit or something. I think that's because when the Rams were super good, they had this like aura around them. Like, oh, they just traded for Stafford, Sean McVay's got this energy that kind of can't be beat in this locker room. And then they made the Super Bowl and they won it. I don't get that exact vibe from them right now. I think that might come as the season goes on. But like the Eagles lost, that might go their way if they have that Super Bowl winning vibe or that aura around them. Um, one game I didn't care about too much this week, just being honest. Patriots beat the Titans 31-13. Cam Ward had a great opening, maybe it might have been second drive, but had a great drive. Got a big touchdown. I think it was to Chimere DK. The Titans look like, hold on, they're actually no. Patriots won this one on the back of Drake May, man. Drake May is uber talented. He's having a great run. 21-23 for 222 yards and 2 touchdowns. This guy's a baller, man. I will say, watch out for a possible stinker from him. Two of their next three games are against Tampa and Cleveland. For some reason, I could see one of those two defenses kind of getting to him and really, really put the pressure on him, and he might throw a pick or two, and people are like, hold on, maybe Drake May is not that good. I think that might happen because he's a young quarterback in the league. That's just going to happen to a lot of these guys. Tennessee's running game is absolutely laughable. It's bad. It's not good at all. Tony Pollard, I don't know what happened to him. He might have had a few good games this week. I think I remember seeing that. But today, I mean, what is that? 6 carries for 18 yards. That's bad. That's not good. Tajay Spears shouldn't be getting carries in the NFL, like serious carries in the NFL, in my opinion. And going back and looking at Ward again, Ward statistically is probably the worst quarterback in the NFL. Probably the worst quarterback statistically in the league. But hey, I'm not too low on him. I don't think a lot of people are either. I think there are some. He has his haters. He has his naysayers. Cam Ward does, but I don't think I'm one of them. I think this team is just so messed up around him. He's got almost no help, so I can't blame him for struggling um, so far into the season. Um, New England's got a linebacker, Robert Spillane. He's been a real baller this year. He didn't play too great this week, but a lot of other guys on the team stepped up around him. And one more thing I want to say about this game is that Ramondre Stevenson is still getting a lot of carries. And it's a bad week to talk about it because he had 18 carries for 88 yards, which is a solid game from a running back. Travion Henderson's right there. We all knew Travion Henderson was super good in college. And Ramondre Stevenson probably isn't going to do 4.5 yards per carry against a good defense. I think Travion Henderson could do that. Terrell Jennings. Yo, I don't know that. I don't know that name. Unfortunately, I don't. I do know Travion Henderson, though. I know he's talented. And I really do think he should get more carries. At least just give him the chance. Because he can't be that bad in practice, I don't think. Maybe, who knows? We're not in that room. Another game this week. Another kind of boring game this week. Chiefs blow out the Raiders 31-0. Raiders moved to 2-5. Chiefs moved to 4-3. Chiefs are starting to look like the Chiefs again. Keep that same Mahomes energy. He balled out. Mahomes was super good this week. 3 touchdowns, 286 yards, no picks. And then you saw his two weapons, Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco, had some good games around him. Pacheco put up 57 yards and a touchdown, nothing crazy. And then Rice had, I think, 7 catches for 42 yards, which was kind of a weird ratio, but still 7 catches is solid. And they did just enough to get the win. I'm not going to complain anything about the Chiefs right now of a blowout win. The Raiders, however, I don't know if you guys remember this, but going to this year, the Raiders had all this hype. People were like, Ashton Genty's there. Geno Smith is coming off this great year. You look at this team and you're like, something might be brewing in Las Vegas. Nothing's brewing in Las Vegas. Nothing's going right. The Raiders, they beat the Patriots in week 1. After that, it's just been terrible. Ashton Genty, you can't blame it on him too much. Maybe you would like him to be a little better because there are running backs in the league who can produce with bad O-lines. Ashton Genty's not doing that yet. I'm not expecting that exactly from him right now, but it was a really high pick in the draft for a running back. He had all this hype. He's not really doing too much with it right now. Their weapons are laughable. Trey Tucker's their best receiving option right now. Excuse me, Michael Mayer is a baller, but Trey Tucker is one of their best receiving options right now. That's insane. And Geno Smith has looked terrible. Geno Smith has been so bad this year. His numbers aren't terrible, but when you watch him, you're like, this guy's not going to help him win any games for sure. So Kansas City just easily runs through that team. An easy team to beat. Next game I want to look at is Philadelphia. They got a win versus the Vikings. Eagles moved to 5-2. Vikings moved to 3-3. Does anyone else get this thing now where they just don't want to turn on an Eagles game? I have no want to. I don't know if it's like the tush push or the agendas or whatever. They might be my most hated team in the league. I get bored watching their games, their style where it's like, oh, we'll go to the run game. If the run game doesn't work, we'll go to the pass game. That probably won't work either. But today, their pass game did work. Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown had tremendous games. A.J. Brown, only 4 catches, 121 yards and a touchdown. Devonta Smith, on the other hand, 9 grabs for 183 and a touchdown himself. A.J. Brown had 2, excuse me. I was thinking about this. I think that if Devonta Smith was a wide receiver 1 somewhere else, people would look at him different. People would look at this undersized guy as like maybe how you see like, I don't know. I don't want to say Jamar because I don't think he has that same speed and everything. But he's so good. He is so good. And in this offense, I think it's a little weird how they use him. Saquon wasn't good today, but the Vikings defense is really good. Brian Flores is always going to scheme up really well. And Carson Wentz looked all right. It's a 6-point game with the defending champs, So I'm not going to drag on the Eagles too much. And I heard that Carson Wentz going to be starting tomorrow night, actually, for me. This is recorded on Wednesday, so I am excited for that game. I think it's Chargers, Minnesota. So I think Carson Wentz can be starting again. But he didn't do terrible. It's not good enough to be a playoff team, I don't think. 2 touchdowns and no picks is not good. 300 yards is solid, but you put your eggs in the J.J. McCarthy basket and it's not working out how you want. I can guarantee you that the people in that building, this is not what they wanted from J.J. McCarthy. It can't be what they wanted from J.J. McCarthy. So when there's talks around the league, big definite talks about Carson Wentz, you might have to start him over JJ. It's super disappointing to see Sam Darnold go out to Seattle and look as good as he is right now. I think that both these teams have some work to do. I don't think the Eagles are in my top 3, top 4 teams in the league right now. I just don't see them going into a really hard game and winning. I don't know if that's true, actually. I would not be confident in the Eagles going to a divisional round game or a NFC championship game. I wouldn't feel confident to win. Now they kind of have some of that like Chiefs, that aura, right? They're like, oh, well, they're just going to win because, how people say the refs or whatever. It kind of just feels like they have that magic, right? But I definitely wouldn't feel confident in them. Moving on, Dallas defeated Washington 44-22. Those are always a weird scoreline, to look at. But Dak Prescott is so good at football this year, man. Dak Prescott is really a baller this year. 21 for 30, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He's so good. And then his weapons around him, I don't know if it's just Dak elevating their play so much. They're also doing good. No CD felt like a thumb nail in the coffin. A nail in the coffin for Dallas. It felt really bad for them. But George Pickens has stepped his butt up. He's been a baller. And then obviously CeeDee Lamb coming back. 5 catches, 110 yards. Those two are just so electric. electric on this team. One guy I really want to talk about as well, Javonte Williams. Who saw him being good? I think he's like top 5 in the NFL in rushing yards right now. Javonte Williams. This guy was on the Broncos, being like, okay, maybe he's like a top 20 running back in the league. Maybe. 19 carries, 116 yards, and a touchdown. That's ridiculous. That's so good. Um, I think their O line probably helps with that a little bit, but you see him actually making moves, breaking tackles, and his top speed is a little better than I remember it being for sure. The Commanders have a real issue though. I think the Cowboys are good. They might be able to push for a playoff spot. They'll definitely struggle against some other good teams though. The Commanders are in real deep doo doo. I think. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, this guy had all the hype. It's all gone. It's all dead. All of that hype is gone. 13 carries, 33 yards. I think this was the last game where you'd be like, okay, this guy could actually have a chance. Jaden Daniels isn't playing good either. Jaden Daniels is 12 for 22, 156 yards and a touchdown. It looks fine, but he's not. He doesn't have that. He's not a leader like he was last year. He's not making this team better. He's not elevating everyone around him like he was. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what in the building is going wrong right now, but it's not working out. Jaden Daniels this year. I'm not saying they should move on from him. It's a similar thing with the Texans, which we'll talk about a little later. I'm not saying they have any reason to move on from him. I just think someone needs to talk to him, or someone needs to figure out why Jaden Daniels isn't producing. Another big problem for the Commanders this game with penalties. They had 8 penalties this game. I think the Cowboys only had 4. And that killed them. There were like multiple really big plays downfield that got just erased by penalties. So yeah, I just think Washington's going to struggle, and I had that prediction going into the season. I just didn't. I thought they got lucky last year, honestly, and then I didn't know how much of that luck was going to come back, and it kind of feels like their luck is running out a little bit. Now, a game I'm super excited to talk about this week. I got to watch my Carolina Panthers go into New York and escape with a victory, 13-6. There's some positives to take out of this week. Rico Dowdle had a solid game. J.C. Horn is such a baller. J.C. Horn has had like 3 one-handed ridiculous interceptions this season. He's been really good in coverage as well. Another big thing for us, Xavier Legette. Man, he's so back. 9 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown. I thought he was just gone. I thought all his hype was dead. He just didn't look like a real receiver in the league. His route running was sloppy and like just there was no sharp cuts or anything. It was all of it was just kind of turned, and his hands kind of looked like a little buttery. But Sunday, he looked real good. He looked real nice, like a real receiver in this league, and he could operate like one of the best of them. And especially for our team, it was nice because Tet didn't have an insane day, or Coker didn't really do much, and our tight end situation is pitiful. But there were some upsides for us. Even Bryce Young looked good until his ankle gave out on him. It's a high ankle sprain. I think he'll also be missing Buffalo, which is next week. And it's so disappointing for us. Because as a Panthers fan, right, I'm seeing the last few weeks, Bryce Young, it's not just the fourth quarter where he's good. He's actually starting to play good the whole game a little bit more. But I don't know how he's going to come back from this injury. I don't know what's going to happen to his confidence, because confidence for Bryce Young, maybe out of any other quarterback in the league, is a big factor on how good he plays. A big factor. He just doesn't play good some weeks because he's just scared. And I hate that so much. And I really hope he comes back from this injury well. Andy Dalton's not a great backup. Andy Dalton doesn't do much. He's not going to do much. I heard that the Panthers were exploring maybe finding a different option. But I guess he's fine. I guess there's not, what is it, Will Levis is our other better option as a backup. So Andy Dalton's all right. But it is still a win, and there are some good things to take from this one. Excuse me. Jets moved to 0-7. The Jets are terrible. Now, I don't think they're the worst team in the league. I think that still is the Dolphins. And I was kind of a Justin Fields truther before this game. This is it for me on Justin Fields. I'm kind of done watching him. Tyrod came in, had a few plays where you're like, hold on, Tyrod Taylor, you might be taking over this job right now. Then they threw 2 picks. So I have no idea what the Jets are going to do with their quarterback situation this year. Panthers defense really shut them down. They just couldn't get moving. Brees Hall had a down game, and I think he was playing a little bit better this year than some people kind of thought. But overall, this is just par for the course for the Jets, and a good win for the Panthers to get us a winning record. It has been a minute since we've had that winning record. I don't remember the last time we had one, but it has been a minute. Um, Next game I want to talk about. This was Monday Night Football, and this was not at an egregious time in the day, right? This was not a ridiculous time of day where I start watching the game and fall asleep second half. No, this was at about 7 p.m. and I really got to focus on this game and and watch watch a cool quarterback back. Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield. Baker, he's scrappy. He's got this MVP narrative this year, right? Everyone wants to see Baker win because they love him. He's already got the people behind him. Now the play started to catch up. Easy method to getting an MVP. But today, Jared Goff won the battle, in my opinion. Baker kind of stepped up a little bit in the second half of this game and started playing a little better, even maybe better than Goff, because Goff had a pick in there that I was like watching. I'm like, what are you doing? What is that throw at all? Baker's interception was not as bad. It was like a weird K dot in, caught the ball with one hand. The other receiver came down with it, and then K dot came down with it. I didn't know if I loved the call that they made, but I wasn't gonna argue it. It was too up in the air. But yeah, Baker on 50 attempts, he had 28 completions, 228 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Goff on 29 attempts had 20 completions, 241 yards, a touchdown and a pick. I think that a big reason why you would say Jared Goff won this battle today was not even just Jared Goff's play. It was the fact that the defense of the Buccaneers had to be so worried about everything else that the Lions had going on that they would let Goff have a little success. Because when Jahmyr Gibbs, man, when Jahmyr Gibbs can tear up your defense, 17 carries, 136 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He also had 3 catches for 82 yards, which is ridiculous. Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the best running backs in football, without a doubt, bro. Jahmyr Gibbs is the lifeline of this offense. David Montgomery had a terrible game. 13 carries for 21 yards is not good. I know he played more at the end because Gibbs, just had played so good they weren't going to put Montgomery in over him. But Gibbs is a real weapon, and he's gotten even better than he was last year. Last year he was like, whoa, this guy will make a play like sometimes. You'd be like, this is consistency. This is a real threat. Week on, week out, he's going to be good for your team no matter what. Amon-Ra is a baller, of course. He didn't go like insane today, but 6 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown is still really good. Cade Otton was a little better than I know, and I'd been sleeping on Cade Otton, I guess, but 7 catches for 65 yards, and he looked like he was kind of everywhere this game. Tez Johnson had a big one for the Bucs. He had like a big catch and a touchdown. The Mike Evans injury is so hard because you see him go up, he beats his receiver, Baker puts it on the money. It's like right here in his hands. And I think he like broke his collar, his clavicle, I think. Some tear or something in the clavicle. And it looked like he had a concussion on the same play. And Ibuka came back, so that's a good thing. But now Evans is like gone. Evans is like gone. He had the hamstring, right? But he was still able to play pretty well. Now he's gone. Now you just have Ibuka, Tez Johnson, Sterling Shepard, I guess, who had 7 catches for 25 yards, which is even more egregious than Rashee Rice's stat line. But the takeaway I got from this game is it was 2 teams that were clearly some of the best in the league, definitely in the NFC, fighting for that number 1 spot in the NFC. And I really think that the Lions came into their home field and won that battle. Not even just on the field, but also this is going to be a big mental edge for them. We just proved ourselves as the number 1 team in the NFC, maybe in the league. We are better than everybody else we're going to go against, and we know that, right? At home, Detroit is just such a fortress. Like, Detroit is like going to Ford Field, if they come in as like a 1 seed or a 2 seed in the league, that's going to be such a hard spot to win a playoff game. I know Washington did it last year, but This year especially, it really feels good. I don't know their defensive coordinator's name. He's good. He's good, man. You saw him scheming up stuff in Baker. Like they were getting to him. They were getting to Baker on plays where you'd expect like if Baker was going against, I think it was the Niners, right? He's gonna go, break off these tackles, all that stuff, and get away. Detroit didn't let him do that today. So this is a really big win for Detroit. I personally might have them as my number one team in the league. I don't know if I'd say that too confidently right now, but they're real good. Last game to cover today. I only watched the first half of this game, then I went to bed. I checked the score line for Seahawks Houston. I was like, all right, I'm watching Seattle do good, right? I'm watching Houston just look bummy like they kind of have all year. So I'm not gonna keep this game on. I woke up and it was like an 8-point game. Seattle had barely won. Um, but I think this was a little bit of of the Seahawks kind of slowing down in that second half. And the Texans were like, all right, well, we'll just keep playing solid, and then we'll be able to catch up. Cooper Kupp had a weird pick this game where he tried to throw it. Sam Darnold looked good in the first half. I can only imagine he kind of fell off in that second half. Um, but Stroud is a real conversation. Like I was saying with Jaden Daniels, Stroud could be good that rookie year, but CJ's had more down than he has up since that rookie year. He was not as good last year, and that's for sure, as he was his rookie year. Now this year, it's kind of the same thing happening. So for Stroud, it's an interesting conversation. I don't think you move on now. If you get to the end of the season, you don't make the playoffs, Stroud doesn't look great, maybe you can start thinking about that. Maybe you bring in a guy in the offseason like maybe what Jameis was. Maybe someone a little better than Jameis, Jameis Winston. Or bring in a guy like that to give him some competition. And if he keeps playing bad, you put someone else in. Woody Marks had that hype. Everyone was like, yo, you need to get on the Woody Marks train. I'm getting off. I'm not staying on the train. Woody Marks, 10 carries for 15 yards. That's bad. Maybe give Nick Chubb some more carries. My fantasy team would like it. Um, Two bright spots this game were JSN, as he's been an insane bright spot this year. He leads the league in receiving yards. He's his development over the last few years. He went from like this guy's like he was one of the premier receivers going in that draft, and he got drafted. He's like, all right, he's not standing out from any of them, but he's being solid. Then the year after that, it was like, okay, this guy's actually got some talent. Like this guy's good. This year, top 5, top 10 receiver in the league. Like JSN is his ability to go up and make a catch is almost unbeaten in the NFL. Almost the best in the NFL. And then Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz had a great game for Houston. 9 catches, 98 yards. Jalen Noel, again, another guy, a name you're not going to hear too much before this game. 4 catches, 77 yards. So overall, pretty solid performance from Seattle. But I would have liked them to close this out a little better, especially because another 5-2 team. There's not a clear number one team in the league. Seattle and Denver kind of coming off these games. It's like you might have to put them a tier below other 5-2 teams because they're not beating these bad teams by more than you want them to. One last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here. There's a rule in the NFL that I don't understand and I don't like. The unsportsmanlike penalty is just so lame, and you hear everyone say it. It's like, oh, get rid of the unsportsmanlike. It doesn't do anything. It's not great, right? I think that there's value to it. I see that you want to have respect in your game. You want to teach your young viewers, there's reasons to not just go up and just start flipping or whatever, right? I think that its value gets lost when it's put on the wrong things. If I go score a cool touchdown or whatever, and I want to do a cool celebration with my friends, I don't think that's disrespectful to anybody. But if my boss somebody, I look down at them and I'm like this over them or something, that feels a little disrespectful. And sometimes, a lot of the times actually, they won't call the ones where they're actually like mocking someone or an actual player who's like just got destroyed, and their family's gonna look at this and be like, "Oh, this guy, oh, poor, I don't know who." But that's not any more respectful than some guys, I don't know, just doing a boat celebration or something. Let the guys have their fun as long as they're being respectful. Because if the end wants to claim it's for respect, I think they should uphold that rule. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for viewing this video. Um, please, please, please contact the email, TikTok, Instagram. Shoot us a follow on any of those. Just DM me. I want to respond to what you guys want to listen to. I want to give the audience what they want. If you could, please like and subscribe. That'd be super grateful. I'd be super grateful for that. Thank you all so much for watching. You are all loved by God. Have a good day. Goodbye.